Hello everyone, it's Glenda and welcome back to Creative Grandma. Today's crochet tutorial is for the easy double stitch poncho with the twisted fringe border. This is being modeled by my granddaughter Carly and this is the size 10. The crochet tutorial will be for child size 6, 8, and 10, and we made this using the Lion brand ice cream cotton blend. This video is sponsored by Lion Brand Yarns, so a special shout out to Lion Brand Yarns for making this crochet tutorial possible. This project today is made using the Lion Brand Ice Cream Cotton Blend yarn. This yarn got me so inspired. It was just fun to work with. It's very, very soft. It's gorgeous yarn. It's an acrylic cotton blend, and it's just a wonderful yarn for just about anything you want to make. Now, Lion Brand has many different styles and weights and textures of yarn available, and I'll have their link in the description box underneath this video so you can check out everything Lion Brand has to offer, and make sure you sign up for their newsletter so you're aware of every time they have a sale. So let's talk about the Lion Brand Ice Cream Cotton Blend here today. It's 3.5 ounces, it's 100 grams, 225 yards, it's 206 meters, and it's a 47 cotton, 53% acrylic blend. It's machine washable and dryable. It's absolutely a pleasure to work with. I love the results and I can't wait to show you the poncho. Now this is a 4 medium weight yarn. Now the other thing about Lion Brand yarns is when you look on the label, they have over 8,000 free patterns at lionbrand.com. So all you have to do is just go to lionbrand.com. You'll see patterns on their header on their website. And when you buy yarn, you don't have to say, "Ooh, I bought that, I don't know what to do with it." Lion Brand provides you with many thousands even of patterns for all their yarns. So you can get on, you can type in ice cream cotton blend, and usually when the yarn comes up, you'll see maybe a project or two underneath that project to give you ideas of what you can do with the yarn you purchase. And it's a great way that, you know, sometimes we buy yarn, we might not use it right away, and then when you see it, you know, get on the website, check out those free patterns, and it'll give you some ideas of what to do with your Lion Brand yarn. So for today's project, you're going to need 4 skeins if you're making size 6. You will need 4 skeins if you're making size 8. Or you'll need 5 skeins if you're making size 10. Now I do have some other colors to show you. I used up some of the other colors, so I only have 3 other colors, but if you didn't want to go with the bright rainbow color, they have this gorgeous color here. This is number 207 grape. So look at these beautiful shades of purple. This is like a bluish purple, a pinkish light purple, then you go into a little bit medium purple, and then you go into the dark purple. So very pretty, and this is color 207 grape. And then I also have this blueberry. This is number 206. Look at those different shades of blue. Just beautiful yarn when worked up. So then I do have a full skein of lemon. This is number 203 lemon. So nice, beautiful shades of yellow if you want to make a nice sunny poncho for a spring, summer day. They also have orange, they have pink, and you can get on Lion Brand and check out all the colors they have available if you wanted to make your poncho in a different color. So again, for this project, you're going to need 4 skeins if you're making size 6, 4 skeins if you're making size 8, or 5 skeins if you're making size 10. You're going to need a size I9 or 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. You're going to need a yarn needle, and you're also going to need a tape measure or something long enough to measure a loop that you're going to pull up to make that twisted fringe. So let's jump right in and let's get started. Before we begin the pattern, I want to make it very clear you need to pay attention to your gauge for this design because we need to make a perfect square. So I'm going to give you all the information in this video for all three sizes. So I'll be doing the size 10 poncho for my granddaughter, but I'll also be giving you the information for size 6, 8, and 10. So to make the poncho for the size 6, you need to make a square that's 8 inches across by 8 inches high. For the size 8 poncho, you're going to be making a square 10 inches across by 10 inches high. And for the size 10 poncho, you're going to be making a square that's 12 inches across by 12 inches high. So very important that you pay attention to your gauge so you're getting that perfect square when you're making your poncho. To begin this pattern, I already have my yarn attached to my hook and I just used a double knot. So we're going to begin, and if you're making the size 6, you want to chain 29. If you're making the size 8, you would chain 35. And if you're making the size 10, you're going to chain 43. So I'm going to begin my chain, and I'm chaining 43 because I'm making that size 10. You're going to yarn over, pull through the loop on your hook, and this creates your first chain. The loop on your hook does not count as a chain. Yarn over, that's 2, 3, 4. So when making your chain, again, if you're making the size 6 poncho, then chain 29. If you're making the size 8 poncho, chain 35. And if you're making the size 10 poncho, then chain 43. So I'm going to finish my chain and I'll be back and we'll get row 1 started. I have my chain done. Now remember, you need a chain of 29 for a size 6, a chain of 35 for a size 8, and I have a chain of 43 for a size 10. So let's begin row 1. You're going to yarn over, you're going to skip 1, 2, 3, 4, insert into that 5th chain from hook, work a double crochet. Yarn over, pull through that chain. You have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. You just made your first double crochet. We're going to work 1 more double crochet into that chain. Yarn over, insert into that same chain, work a double crochet. Now we're going to start our repeat. So if you need help, you would just click back on the video to where I say this is the start of the repeat and work until I say this is the end of the repeat. Very simple pattern. You're going to yarn over, you're going to skip the next chain, insert into the next chain, work 2 double crochet. 1, yarn over, insert back into that same chain, work your second double crochet. And that is the end of the repeat. Very, very simple. So let's do it again. Yarn over, skip the next chain, insert into the next chain, work 2 double crochet. 1 and 2. Again, that is the end of the repeat. So I'll do it one more time. You're going to yarn over, skip the next chain, insert into the next chain, work 2 double crochet. 1, yarn over, insert back into that same chain, work your second double crochet. That's 2. And this is what your work looks like so far. So now you're going to go ahead and repeat across. You're going to skip the next chain, work 2 double crochet into the next chain, skip the next chain, work 2 double crochet into the next, and you're going to repeat that across 2 within your last 2 chains. When you get to the last 2 chains, stop. I'll meet you there and I'll show you how to finish the row. I'm over at the end of row 1, and you should have stopped within 2 chains from the end of the row. And now we're going to finish row 1, and we're going to skip the next chain and work only 1 double crochet into that last chain. You're going to yarn over, skip that next chain, insert into the last chain, work a double crochet. And that is the end of row 1. So let me zoom out, and again, yours will be either the same size or a little smaller. So when you look at your work, we skip those first 4 chains, so this creates your first double crochet. So we're going to count that as a stitch, and then you worked in groups of 2 double crochet across with a chain in between. When you got to the end of the row, you should have 1 double crochet in the end of the row. So when you count your stitches, you should have a total of 26 double crochet across the row, counting that beginning chain that we skipped, if you're making the size 6. If you're making the size 8, you should have 32 stitches. And if you're making the size 10, you'll have a total of 40 double crochet stitches like you're seeing me. So now when you're working this pattern, when you work row 1, it's going to be smaller than what the square projected size is. Because when we make this first row, we're going to come back with row 2, and we're going to be working stitches in between these, which is going to stretch those stitches open and make your square bigger. So when you're checking your gauge for your square, you must work at least 3 rows to get the correct gauge. We're going to begin row 2 with a chain 2. 1, 2. You're going to turn your work. Now this beginning chain 2 is going to count as our first double crochet. Now we're only chaining 2 because we want to keep the edges of our work nice and tight. And if you do a chain 3, it just makes it gap and does not look right. So that's why we're using a chain 2. So yarn over, skip the first stitch. You're going right in between the 2 double crochet groups. So you're skipping the first 2 stitches and you're inserting between the second and third stitch. Insert right between the stitches, right between the post of the stitches. You're not going on the top of the work, you're coming here in between the stitches. Insert your hook, front to back, yarn over, pull back through. You have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. You just made a double crochet. We're going to work 1 more double crochet into that same space between those 2 stitches. Yarn over, insert back into that same space, work a double crochet. So you can see when you work those 2 double crochet into the center of those 2 stitches, it opens it up. It almost looks like a V-stitch, and then it spreads those stitches. So now we're going to start our repeat. You're going to yarn over, you're going to skip 2 stitches and insert right in the center of that next 2 double crochet group, right between the post of those 2 stitches, work 2 double crochet. 1 and 2. And that's all there is to the repeat. So let's do it again. You're going to yarn over, you're skipping 2 stitches, you're inserting between the skip 2 and that next stitch, which is right in the center of that next 2 double crochet group, work 2 double crochet. 1 and 2. Yarn over, insert right into the center of the next 2 double crochet group. You're going right between the post, work 2 double crochet. 1 and 2. So let's do it one more time. You're going to yarn over, insert right in the center of the next 2 double crochet group and work 2 double crochet. 1, and 2. So go ahead and work 2 double crochet in the center of each 2 double crochet group across to your turning chain. I'll meet you at the end of row 2 at your turning chain. I'm over at the end of row 2. I worked my last set of 2 double crochet right in the center of the last 2 double crochet group, and when you look at your work, you're going to see your ending turning chain. We're going to end the row by skipping the last double crochet and working a double crochet into the top of that turning chain. Yarn over, skip that next double crochet, insert into the top of that turning chain, work a double crochet. So row 2 is finished. This is a 1 row repeat for this poncho square. So row 2 is going to be your repeat row. So if you need help, you're going to click back on the video to where we started row 2. You're going to start with that chain 2 and then work 2 double crochet in the center of each group of 2 double crochet across, and then you end with a double crochet. So before I give you the different row count for the different sizes, I just want to show you how when you look at your square now, you're going to go ahead and measure it. Now mine is going to be 12 inches. So when I go over to the edge of my piece and I did row 2, it comes out to 12 inches. Now this is for the size 10. So when you're making the other sizes, again, you must do at least 2 to 3 rows and check your gauge to make sure you're getting the right size. So again, for size 6, you should have a square that's 8 inches. If you're making size 8, you need a square that is 10 inches. If you're making the same size I am and making the size 10, you need your length, you need your width to be 12 inches. So now for the different row count for the different sizes. Now if you're making size 6, you're going to repeat row 2 17 more times, and you'll be at the end of row 19 when finished. If you're making size 8, you're going to repeat row 2 21 more times, and you'll be at the end of row 23. And for size 10, you're going to repeat row 2 26 more times, and you'll be at the end of row 28. So go ahead, if you need help, click back on the video. So go ahead and repeat the row count for what size you're working on, and I'll meet you when you get your square finished. I finished my square. This is what it looks like. Now again, this video I'm doing all 3 sizes, so you really have to pay attention to which size you're making. Now this is for size 10. When you measure your square, again, it should be 12 inches across, and when you measure from the top to the bottom, it should measure 12 inches from the top to the bottom. So this is for size 10. If you're making the size 6, then your block should measure 8 inches across by 8 inches high. If you're making the size 8, your block will measure 10 inches across by 10 inches high. So once you get your first block made and you have it all finished, check it and make sure it's perfectly square, then you need to make 3 more squares. We need to have a total of 4 squares to make our poncho. So once your square is finished, then you need to mark the right side of your square. So when I do my work, when I start the end of row 1, you're going to have that little bit of extra yarn left over from where you started your chain. So I know that this will be on the bottom left corner and this will be the right side of my work. So when I finished my block, again, it depends on which size that you're working on, whether it's going to be on the right side or wrong side of your work. So size 10, you're going to end on the wrong side of your work. So I'm going to flip it over so my little strand of yarn from row 1 is on the left corner. So I know this is the right side of my work, and I'm just going to tie a piece of yarn right through one of those double crochet stitches. I just put a stitch marker or tie just a single knot and mark it. This is the right side. So you want to know which side is the right side and which side is the wrong side, because you want all your pieces to be uniform when we place our poncho pieces together. So now what you need to do is you need to go ahead, click back on the video, and you're going to make 3 more blocks. You need a total of 4 blocks total for our poncho. So go ahead and get your 4 blocks made, and I'll be back and I'll show you how to put the pieces together to make the poncho. And then we'll do the neck edging, and then we'll put our twisted loop border on our poncho. So I have my 4 squares finished. I have my right sides marked. So what you're going to do is take your first square, you have the right side facing, you're going to turn it to the wrong side. So here's your first square. It's straight across the top, straight across the bottom. You want to turn it so the point is at the top. You want it to have a point at the top, at the bottom, and on 4 sides. So now I'm going to take my yarn needle, and I notice that this has a lot of purple and blue. So I'm going to look at my skein of yarn. Here's my skein of yarn. And the best thing to do is try to match whatever color is right here on this row that we're going to sew across right here. So I'm just going to take this and go right down to the purple because it's mostly purple. So take the yarn off. And this way it blends better. Now, if you don't want to do that, then you're probably going to have little bits of color through it. So I prefer to try to match that color up the best I can. If you can't, that's fine. So I'm just going to take a length of the purple yarn, cut that off, thread my yarn needle, and then I'm going to grab another square. Now this is the right side facing. Make sure you have them marked right side and wrong side. You're going to flip it to the wrong side. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to make it so the rows are going in the same direction. You're taking the foundation row of that block and you're butting it up against the top row. So let me see if I can get this in a little closer so you can see what I'm doing. So you're taking the top row, this is where you finished off, and you're butting it against the foundation row of your next block. And if you look, you'll notice that your V stitches are lining up. We're going to line up that first stitch. So what I'm doing is I'm sewing on the wrong side. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to take and put our yarn needle right through that base of that chain, of that first chain. And then you're going to come up here, and when you look at your work, you're going to have your starting chain here. So you want to go right into the top of that starting chain. I'm just going to pull my yarn through, and I'm going to just tie 1 knot. And then that will get weaved in. So you're just going to grab and match your stitches up. I'm going under the whole, both of those loops on that chain. I'm going to match it up to the next stitch, and I'm going under both loops of that stitch. So let me zoom up just a little more so you can see what I'm doing. We're going under both loops of the chain, and we're going under both loops of the matching stitch on the other side, and we're just going to pull it through and do a whip stitch right up our poncho. Match it up to the next stitch. Go under both loops of the chain and both loops of that next stitch and just pull it through. And you can pull this a little bit tighter if you wish. So you're going to have that whip stitch across the back, and when you look at the front, you'll just have that little stitch here. The purple will blend right in. So let's do a few more together. Again, you're just going under the top, you're going under those 2 chains, match it up to the stitch on the other side, and pull it through. Grab the next chain, match it up to the next stitch, and pull it through. Make sure that you have your squares on the wrong side. Grab your next chain, go under both loops of that chain, grab the 2 loops of the stitch on the other side, and pull through. Grab the next chain, insert under the top 2 loops of that next stitch on the other side, and pull through. So go ahead and continue sewing your squares together. When you get to the end, you're going to have that last double crochet, and you're going to match it up to the top of this ending turning chain. You're going to go right into the top of that chain. I'll come over and come back when I get here and show you how I end sewing my squares together. So go ahead and continue sewing your squares together. So I stitched across my panel and I matched those V stitches up, so when you look at your work, your V stitch should be right on top of the one of the row below. And when you get over to the end, the thing you have to remember is that when you skip those first chain, you had a double crochet and a chain there. So when you finish off the row, you want to make sure you skip a chain and then go into the next chain, and then come over and match it up to the ending double crochet and pull through. And then when I end, I usually go right back through. I grab that end stitch, pull it back through the end stitch again a second time, but before you pull it all the way through, you have a loop. And then I just take my needle through the loop and pull, and this helps secure my yarn. And then I'm going to take the rest of my yarn. You're going to go ahead and weave it in through, and then come back and then take it through a 3rd time. So I'm just going to turn this so you can see what I'm doing. I just flipped it over. I'm just going to take my yarn needle and I'm just going to go through some of those stitches on the back side. And I like to grab to where those stitches are tight, so you know that that yarn's going through there, and it's really going to help secure your yarn. So I went through quite a few stitches. Pull your yarn through on the back side. Make sure you do all your weaving on the back side. And then I'm just going to come back across my work again. Now when you come back, you're going to skip a stitch. That way it's not pulling back through. So I'm just going to go under a few more stitches and come back across, and try to catch as many stitches as you can to really secure that yarn. And if you have enough yarn, just take it back through again and really secure those ends. And then I'll fasten off. I hope I got that all in. I was doing it and wasn't watching the monitor. But that's how it's done. And again, this is on the wrong side of your work. So now, since we have these 2 squares sewed together, now what we're going to do is we're going to sew the next piece. So this is our center square of our poncho. So you're going to take your next square. This is right side facing, so you want it to be wrong side. Now, if you marked your squares and you see any with this, make sure they're underneath and you don't see the right sides. Everything is wrong side facing. So here is our 2 pieces we sewed together. So now we're going to take the 3rd square and we're going to take it over here, and we're making like an L shape. So, okay, this is upside down, so you have to look at your squares. Now my stitches, the 2 double crochet are at the top and it comes down to a point. So this is the opposite. So I got to turn this around, and what we're doing is we're trying to match the stitches. You want the stitches to blend right across. This is row to row on this one, and then this one's going row to row this way. You're just going to match those row end stitches up. So once you have your next square in place, we're going to start sewing this together. Now this is going to be put together a little bit different than this side. Because we could match that color, we could match our yarn. But because we're going over several different colors, we don't want that color to show through and really stand out, like this pink up against that green and yellow is really going to stand out on the poncho if you sew right underneath and through those layers. So let me zoom up and show you how I do it so you don't see this pink on the front side of your poncho. I already tied my yarn down at the base through the end of the stitch and matched it up to the other side. So what you want to do when you're sewing this way, where you're going across all those different colored rows, you want to make sure that you're keeping your yarn needle on the top of the work and you're not going all the way down through. If you go down through all the way, you're going to see this pink through every one of those colors. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep our needle to the top of the work. You're only going to grab the top stitches. So let me show you how I do that. So let me try to show you just a little bit better. When you're looking at your work, you're going to see some top stitches, and then you're going to see these stitches underneath. You do not want to go underneath those stitches. You don't want to do that. You just want to go through any of the top stitches. Just grab the top stitch only. You do not want this thread to show on the other side of your work. And then you're going to come over here and do not go under the stitches. You're only going to be grabbing top stitches, any of the top stitches. So when you lay your work down, let me lay it down. This may be a little bit harder for you to sew together than the other side because the other side was a little easier, but you need to match your rows up. So now with this section, I noticed that my first row is blue and this row is yellow. So make sure, if that happens to you, that you pay attention to your rows, because it's easy to just want to go like that and match those rows up. Well, you don't want to do that or you're going to be off on the top. You have to make sure, no matter what color the row, you're matching the end of the row on this side, row 1 with row 1, row 2 with row 2, row 10 with row 10. So just follow those stitches across. Make sure that you go row by row to sew that together. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm just going to grab my top loop only. And if you don't have a top loop over on the edge, go clear into the one back. And we're going to whip stitch this together. We're going to whip stitch the same way. We're just only going in top stitches and we're not letting our stitch go through over to the front side. So again, I'm grabbing the top loop. I'm leaving that bottom loop there. I don't want my thread to show through. Now when I look at this, I don't want to go down here into this bottom loop. I want to grab something on the top. So just grab whatever is up here, that just keep those rows even and aligned, and then just grab a stitch back, but make sure you're going into top stitches only. So I'm going to go ahead and work a few stitches. I'm pulling that tight. Grab another top stitch, make sure those rows are lined up, pull through, and again, this is going to look a little strange because it's going to look like my rows aren't lined up, but they really are. It's just one color off. So now I'm lining up row 2. I'm going to grab a top stitch. Now I'm coming over a little farther because I don't want to go into that edge stitch. I don't want my stitch to show, so I'm coming clear over a little bit and I'm grabbing a stitch. As long as it's on the top, you're not going to see it. And I'm just going to work my way up. And again, make sure you're not going clear through to the bottom of your work. You just want to keep into the top stitches, line those rows up. Now let me show you what it looks like on the other side. So when you turn it over, you're not going to see the pink. the pink is clear on the other side. So that's what you want to do. Do not go through the whole entire layer. Just make sure you're staying into those top stitches when you're sewing together. Now you're going to see it on the wrong side. You're going to see those stitches, but you will not see them on the right side. So that's how you do it when you sew this section on. So go ahead and continue whip stitching together, matching your rows stitch by stitch. Match those stitches up row by row. Whip stitch in the top stitches only, and I'll meet you at the other end when I get my square sewed on. So I just sewed up the side of my poncho. Again, this is your first square. You sewed it to your second square. You matched up your third square and sewed up on this. So you have this V-shaped poncho. So I'm just going to fasten off here where I sewed. I'm going to leave a long length, and I'll weave that in later, but I wanted to show you what it should look like. Remember, this is the wrong side of the poncho, and you can see where I whip stitched and I only went in the top stitches. So you can see that pink through the stitches on the wrong side. But when you flip this over, you cannot see the pink. Here is where I seamed it together, and see how your pink stays on the wrong side. You're just going into the top stitches only on the wrong side, which keeps that color on the wrong side and you can't see it. So it makes such a nicer look to the poncho. So now, since I showed you both ways to sew your squares on, you know how to sew it when you're going across the row, and you know how to sew it when you're matching up the side with all those different colors. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn our poncho right side facing. So this is why it's important to have those markers of what is the right side of your poncho. So now with the right side facing, again, these are my stitch markers. These are just to tell me this is the right side facing. So what you want to do now is you're going to take the top side of your poncho. So I'm going to call this block 1, 2, and 3. You're going to go up to block 2, and you're going to take this block and you're going to fold it in half. You're going to take the right sides, and the right sides are going from right side to right side. So just fold that right in half, and you're going to match it up to this joining seam. You're going to do the same thing on the other side, and you're going to take right side to right side. So you're going to fold this over, right sides are together on the inside, and you're going to match it up to that seam. So now we have the wrong side facing here, the wrong side facing here, and you have the right side facing of the bottom square. So when you get your fourth square, make sure you know what side's the right side and what side's the wrong side. So now we're going to take our square and we're going to turn it wrong side facing you. So the wrong side is on top, and because this is still the right side, we're placing our right sides together. So when you put this square onto your poncho, the wrong side is facing up and you're looking down at the wrong side. So the right sides will be together. This is the right side, this is the right side. So now we have all wrong sides facing us. So now when you go to attach this block, you have to pay attention because you want to try to match it up the best you can. So it all depends on how you're turning your block. So let me try to show you what I mean. When you go to join this fourth square, this will not match up on the one side. One of the sides are going to be different. You still want your rows going in the same direction, only this one row is going to be the opposite. Like this V-stitch has the point here and this V-stitch has the point here. So let me see if I can zoom up just a little bit closer so you can see what I mean. So see how these V-stitches, the point comes down here and this one comes here? That's just the way the pattern works out. So that is how we're going to do it. So if I try to turn this and match it so this side matches and the two double crochet are all running where the points are all the same, then it's not going to match on this side. This side, the stitches are going to be running down, and this one they're going to be running up. but that is just, again, how the pattern works out. As long as when you join this block together, you have the stitches going in the same direction. These stitches are coming this way, these stitches are going that way. So don't do it that way. Turn it again. So just make sure when you're joining your last block together that the rows and the stitches are all going in the same direction. These are all going up and down. So even though it's the opposite, they're still running this way. And when you look over here, they're still going this side. They are going in the right direction. But one side will not match. It will be upside down. So you just want to make sure this is lined up correctly in order to give the best look to your poncho that you can. So now what you're going to do is you're only going to be sewing through the top pieces. You're not going to be sewing through this bottom piece. You're going to go ahead and sew your seam. Again, I showed you both ways to do it. When you're sewing across these different rows here, you're going to stay on the top stitches. When you're sewing row across a complete row where it's one solid color, now this I would use the yellow because it's mostly yellow. This is mostly pink, so it doesn't matter, yellow or pink. I would use one solid color, and you can go through the bottom of the stitches. You're going to sew here, and then you're going to sew your block to this side. So go ahead and sew your pieces together, and then I'll be back and we'll get our neck edging started. So my poncho is all sewed together. This is the wrong side. So now we're going to turn it right sides out. So you're just going to turn it and bring it so it's right sides out, and then fold it so the point is down here, and then you can straighten the top of your poncho. Now these pieces of yarn here are just telling me these are the right sides of my poncho pieces. So I'll be taking these out when I'm all finished. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start the neck edging. So when we start the neck, we're going to start down in the dip of the neck here. So I'm going to grab my yarn. So I already have my yarn attached, and we're going to go right up to the center of the neck, right here in this dip. So with the right sides facing, you're going to look at your poncho and you're going to see where the three squares come together. This is your center point, and then these are the side squares. So I'm going to skip the center point. I'm going to skip this first stitch of the next block, and I'm going right into that next double crochet stitch. So again, when you look at your poncho, this is the top point of the center block, and then you have a square over here and a square over here. So again, we're going to skip the point of the center block, skip that first double crochet of that next block, and insert into the second double crochet on the left side of that center point. I'm going to join my yarn with the slip stitch, and then I'm going to chain 2 for my first stitch. Now this is going to count as a half double crochet. So now I'm going to work a half double crochet in each stitch across until I get to 1 stitch from the next point. So let's begin. You're going to yarn over, insert into that next stitch, yarn over, and pull through. You have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, insert into the next stitch, work a half double crochet. Yarn over, insert into the next stitch, work a half double crochet. So you're going to continue and work 1 half double crochet in each double crochet across to your next V point. So when you see these 3 blocks that come together, you're going to work over to 1 stitch before that V. So you're going to stop before you work in this stitch. So go ahead and continue and work 1 half double crochet in each double crochet across to 1 stitch from that center point on the opposite side, and I'll meet you there. I'm over at the front center point of our poncho. We started at the back point. We started in the second double crochet from that dip in that V in the back, worked 1/2 double crochet around to the front point of that center block. So let me zoom up and we'll continue. So when you're looking at your work, this is what it looks like. We're over to the point and we have 1 stitch remaining here, and then we have the center point of that center block, and then we have the start of the next block. So when you look at your work, you'll notice we're going from double crochet stitches across the top of that block to row end stitches over here. So we're going to change the way we do the other half of the neck edging, and we're going to be working in the edge of the row end stitch. We're not going underneath it, we're only going into the very edge right here. So now we're going to half double crochet 3 together. So we're going to be working across these 3 stitches here and pulling this together. So let's begin. You're going to yarn over, you're going to insert into the last stitch of this block coming around, yarn over and pull through. You have 3 loops on your hook. We're going to skip the point of that center square. So here's the point of that center square, so we're skipping that. We're going to yarn over and we're going right into the edge. We're just going to grab the edge of this row end stitch. We're not going under it, we're going into it. And then you're going to yarn over, pull through. You have 5 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 5 loops on your hook. We just half double crocheted 3 together, and we're just pulling this together where it dips down in the center. So now we're going to go ahead and work 1 more half double crochet into this same row end stitch. You're going to yarn over, you're going right through the chains. Try to make sure you're going through the edge of that row end stitch, going through these chains. If you work under it, you're going to create a big gap. So we're only working right into these chain stitches. Work a half double crochet. So we work 2 half double crochets into that first double crochet row end stitch. So now we're going to begin the repeat. So the repeat, we're going to work 1 half double crochet in each of the next 2 row end stitches, and then 2 half double crochet into the next row end stitch. And we need to do that because you need to even out your stitches on this side to try to match the other side. So let's begin. You're going to yarn over and you're going to insert right into the edge of that stitch. So use this part of your hook and just grab the chain in that next row end stitch. Work a half double crochet. Yarn over, insert into the next row end stitch, and again we're going into the chain. Don't go under it. You want to go in it here. You're going to yarn over, insert into the edge of the next row end stitch, work a half double crochet. Now we're going to work 2 half double crochet into the next row end stitch, and when you're looking at your work you can just follow those double crochet stitches down and find the end of the row. So yarn over, insert into the edge of that stitch, work 2 half double crochet. 1, yarn over, I'm going back into that same row end stitch, but I'm going into a different chain, work your second half double crochet. And that is the end of the repeat. So let's do it again. You're going to yarn over, insert into the next row end stitch, into the edge of that stitch, work 1 half double crochet. Yarn over, insert into the next row end stitch, and you're going right through the chain, work a half double crochet. In the next row end stitch, we're going to work 2 half double crochet. Yarn over, insert into the edge of that stitch, work a half double crochet. Yarn over, you're going back into that same row end stitch, only in a different spot, work a half double crochet. So with this pattern, you're working a half double crochet into the one row end stitch, a half double crochet into the next row end stitch, and then 2 half double crochet into the next row end stitch. So let's do it again. You're going to work 1 half double crochet into the next row end stitch, yarn over, half double crochet into the next row end stitch, yarn over, and we're working 2 half double crochet into the next row end stitch, and we're going right into the edge of the stitch. Yarn over, insert in a different spot in the edge of that row end stitch, and work that second half double crochet. And that is the end of the repeat. So go ahead and work a half double crochet into the next row end stitch, a half double crochet into the next row end stitch, and 2 half double crochet into the next row end stitch. You're going to repeat that pattern around until you get to the next point of our poncho down in the dip where we started on the other side, and you're going to work over to the last stitch of this current square. So when you get over here, it just depends on what size you're making of where that repeat ends. So keep working the repeat no matter where it ends until you get to this very last row end stitch here. Do not work in that stitch. You're going to stop 1 stitch before it. So you're going to repeat across until you get to within this last row end stitch. I'll meet you there, and then we'll finish going across the point. So I worked around. We started in the back V of the poncho, and we started working across the row end stitches. We worked around, and now we're back to the center front point. And when you look at your work, you have 1 row end stitch remaining. So this is how it looks. Here's the point of the center square here. Here's the next square where it's joined. Here's our joining seam here. And this is the last row of this current block. So now we're going to work across these 3 spaces here. So now we're going to half double crochet 2 together. I believe I said half double crochet 3 together when I did the front point because I was thinking 1, 2, 3. But because we're skipping this stitch, we're only really doing a half double crochet 2 together. So sorry if I confused you. So now we're going to go ahead and half double crochet 2 together over the next 3 spaces. So let's begin. You're going to yarn over, you're going to insert into the edge of the next row end stitch, which is the last row of that current block, yarn over and pull through. You have 3 loops on your hook. We're going to skip the center point of that center block. We're going to yarn over, insert into that first double crochet stitch of that next block, yarn over and pull through. You have 5 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 5 loops on your hook. Now we're going to join, and we're going to count up to the top of that beginning chain 2, 1, 2, insert into the top of that beginning chain 2 and slip stitch. I'm going to fasten off my work, and again I leave a little bit longer length just to make it easier to weave those ends in. I chain 2, I pull my hook up, pull the yarn out, grab the yarn, pinch, pull down, and it creates a secure knot, and you can weave that in on the wrong side of your poncho. Just match those colors, take it down into the matching color. Now, since our neck edging is finished, the only thing we have to do is our bottom border around our poncho. So now we're going down and we're going to start our border for around the bottom of our poncho. So what you're going to do now is make sure the right sides are facing, and you're going to turn your poncho upside down. You're going to turn it so the bottom point is now at the top. So your V is here, and just turn it so that point is now at the top. You want to have the row end stitches on the right. That's where you're going to have those wider double crochet row end stitches. And then you want your foundation chain, this chain at the base where you started the first row, you want that on the left. This is the bottom point of the poncho, but now it's facing the top. Foundation chain on the left, double crochet row end stitches on the right. So I already have my yarn attached to my hook, and we're going right up into this first chain right at the very tip of the point. Here's our row end stitch of that double crochet row. Here's our foundation chain coming across. You want to insert into that very first chain, yarn over, pull through that chain, and pull through the loop on your hook, and that secures your yarn. We're going to chain one, insert back into that same first chain, work a single crochet. And again, that very first chain is right at the base of that row end stitch. You're going to chain two, one, two, insert back into that same beginning chain and work a single crochet. We just made the point of our poncho down at the bottom point. Insert into the next chain, work a single crochet. Insert into the next chain, work a single crochet. Single crochet into the next chain. Into the next chain, you're going to work a single crochet. So go ahead and work one single crochet in each chain across until you get to the joining seam. I'll meet you there, show you how to go over your joining seam, and then we'll continue. I'm over at my joining seam. This is where those two stitches butt together, and you'll know it when you get there. You'll feel it right where those two blocks meet. So what we're going to do here is we're going to single crochet right into the center of those two double crochet stitches that are butted up against each other. Insert right into the center between those stitches, work a single crochet. And then we're going to continue. Next, you'll see a chain space, so insert into that chain, work a single crochet. Insert into the next chain, work a single crochet. Insert into the next chain, work a single crochet. So go ahead and work one single crochet in each chain across until you get to your next joining seam, and I'll meet you there. I'm over at my next joining seam. You have two stitches here that were butted against each other and seamed. So I'm going right in the center of those two stitches. Try to go closer to the top. Insert your hook, work a single crochet. And then we're just going to continue and work one single crochet across to the next center point. So when you get to the next center point, you're going to have row end stitches, so you'll know when you get to the point. So go ahead and work one single crochet in each chain down to the corner, and I'll meet you there. I worked across, and now I'm over at my next corner. You'll see that now we ended with a single crochet right in the base of that last two double crochet group where you see both double crochets in that chain. So now you have to remember that we still have one more chain in this row to work in. So we're going to single crochet into the next chain. And now we're going to work our corner right in the base of that remaining chain. So you may have to pull on your work and open that up to see that chain. We're going in this very next chain, and we're going to work a single crochet, chain two, and a single crochet. Insert into that next chain, work a single crochet. You're going to chain two, bring your hook back, go back into that same chain, work a single crochet. So you just made the corner point of the poncho. That's down in that point. So now we're going to be working across the row end stitches. So now when you look at your work, you're going to see we have the row end stitches instead of chains. So we're going to be working just like we did before, and we're going right into the very edge of the end row stitch. You're not going under it. We don't want to do that. You want to go right into the edge. We're working right through these stitches right on the very edge. Now for this, we're going to skip the joining seams. So when you get up to the joining seam, you'll see that where we seamed our poncho together, it's hard to see, but right here's my joining seam, and you'll see we have a row end stitch, a row end stitch, and then it jumps right over to a row end stitch. So we do not have to worry about joining seams on this side of the poncho. We're just going to work right into the row end stitches and skip over that little piece here of that joining seam. So you're going from row end stitch to row end stitch and jumping over that seam. So let's go ahead and begin. Now again, when we work this repeat down the side of the poncho, it may not end exactly on the end of the repeat. You may end up with 2 single crochet into a row end stitch, or you may end up with 1 single crochet in the row end stitch, because the different sizes have different amounts of rows. So you're just going to work the repeat over to the end of the poncho, and wherever it comes out is where it's going to come out. So we're going to start and we're going to work 2 single crochet into this first row end stitch going down the poncho. Insert into the edge of that row end stitch, and you're working through the chain stitches here and not under it. Make sure you're going right into the edge, because that way it doesn't create a big gapping hole. You're keeping it nice and secure up here. Work a single crochet. Insert back into that same row end stitch, but find a different spot on that chain to insert. So I'm going up here a little bit, work a single crochet. So we just work 2 single crochet into that first row end stitch. So now we're going to go ahead and start the repeat. Look for your next row end stitch, and just, if you have to, go down farther till you see those 2 double crochet, follow it down to the edge. We're going to work 1 single crochet into the next row end stitch. Find your next row end stitch, follow it down, insert into the next row end stitch, and work 1 single crochet. Find your next row end stitch, and we're going to work 2 single crochet in 2 different spots of that row end stitch on the edge of that stitch. Insert into the next row end stitch, work a single crochet. You're going back into that same row end stitch, just right beside the other chain, or find a spot in that edge that's easy to get your hook through, and work a single crochet. So basically we're going 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. So you're working 1 single crochet in the next row end stitch, 1 single crochet in the next row end stitch, and 2 single crochet into the next row end stitch. So it's just easy to remember. You're going 1, 1, and then 2. So let's do it again. You're going to insert into the next row end stitch and just find the easiest place to stick your hook right through that edge stitch. Work a single crochet. Insert into the next row end stitch, and again find the 2 double crochet together and follow it down. Right beside that is your edge stitch. Insert into that stitch, work a single crochet. Now we're going to work 2 single crochet into the next row end stitch. So insert into that row end stitch, work a single crochet. Insert back into that same row end stitch, just find a different spot, work a single crochet. So again, we went 1, 1, and then 2. So let's do it one more time, and then you can continue on your own. Same process that we did before. Insert into the next row end stitch, work 1 single crochet. Insert into the next row end stitch, and again find that row by looking for the 2 double crochet, follow it down, insert into that row end stitch, work 1 single crochet. You're going to find your next row end stitch, and we're going to work 2 single crochet. Insert into that stitch, work a single crochet. That's 1. Insert back into that same row end stitch and work a second single crochet. So again, when you're working this pattern, you're working 1 single crochet into the next row end stitch, 1 single crochet into the next row end stitch, and then 2 single crochet into the next row end stitch, and you're going to repeat that across to the next corner. So go ahead and repeat down to the last row, and you're going to finish the repeat right in that very last row, and I'll be back and I'll show you how to join your round. So I'm back at the beginning. I worked the repeat all the way down from point to point. We started here and we worked that repeat pattern all the way around to that beginning point. It's hard to show the whole poncho because I'm working on it, but we did work from point to point doing that repeat all the way around, and now we're back at the beginning. So now we're going to go ahead and join. You worked in the last row end stitch down, and now we're going to just join with the slip stitch in the top of that beginning single crochet. And round 1 is finished. So now we're getting ready to do our twisted fringe border. So we're going to work 1 single crochet and a twisted fringe in each single crochet around, and we're going to do it 3 times in each of the corner points. So let's begin. To begin round 2, we're going to chain 1, and we're going to single crochet into that first single crochet stitch. Now we're getting ready to start our twisted fringe border. So let me grab a tape measure. Now I'm going to zoom out a little bit for this. So what you have to determine on the tape measure is for the size 6, you would pull a loop up to the 6-inch mark. For the size 8, you would pull it up to the 7-inch mark. And for the size 10, I'm going to go clear up to the 9-inch mark. Now this seems long, but you have to remember when you do the twisted fringe, you're going to fold it in half. A 6-inch loop will create a 2-inch fringe. So let's get started. I am doing the larger size, so I'm going to pull a 9-inch loop up. So you need something to gauge that you keep the same consistency of those loops, so they're all the same size. So again, if you're making the smaller size and doing the size 6, then you would pull up to the 6-inch mark. If you're doing the size 8, pull up to the 7-inch mark. And if you're doing the size 10, pull all the way up to the 9-inch mark. So I'm going to lay my tape measure here, see if I can figure out how to do this and tape myself while trying to watch the monitor and do everything else. So I made my single crochet. So to work the twisted fringe, you need something the length that you want to use. A tape measure is fine, or anything that long. You're going to pull up a loop to that length. So I'm just going to pull up to the 9-inch mark. So now since I have my 9-inch loop, you're just going to take your hand and move it in a circular motion, and you're going to twist the loop. Now this is a really long loop and it wants to kind of like come off my hook, so you just have to get a rhythm, but you see how I'm turning it with my hand. Now the longer the loop, the more turns you're going to have to do, but you can see how it's twisting. If you look at your loop, it's twisting. So you're just going to keep going around in a circle with your hand. Look at your fringe and how it's twisting. And you want this to be twisted pretty tight. So you want that to be a nice tight twist. It has a long way to go clear down at the bottom. So I'm going to keep twisting. Now the longer the fringe, again, the harder it's going to be because it is extremely long. So I'm just going to keep going in a circle, and you'll know when this is twisted really nice. So again, it takes a lot of extra time to put this fringe on, but I really liked the look. Now you can see how that is twisted now, but I'm going to try to do it just a little bit more, make it nice and tight. And again, you're just swinging your hand in a circular motion. Now, if you're sitting in your chair and you're doing this, or however you crochet, now I'm crocheting and trying to look in a monitor at the same time, so it's a little bit harder to do. So I twisted it to where I think it looks pretty good. You can see how it's really twisted tight. So then I'm going to take my little finger and I'm going to try to put it right in the middle of that and bend it up. And then you're going to come back to that front loop of the single crochet you just made. Take your other finger and push both loops together, and then try to pinch it with your fingers to hold it in place, and then yarn over and slip stitch through those loops. And then when you look at your fringe, you can see how that twists and makes a twisted fringe. And then I just go like this, and then I make sure it's nice and straight. So now we're over to our corner point, and when you get to the corner points, we're going to just repeat this 3 times in the chain 2 space of that corner point. So let's begin. Insert into the corner chain 2 space of that center point, work a single crochet. And again, you're going to pull up a long loop depending on the size of the project you're making. The small size 6, you pull up to the 6. The size 8, pull up to the 7-inch, and for the size 10, pull up to the 9-inch. So pull up your loop to the measurement specified, and then you're going to twist. So I'm going to go ahead and keep twisting. And like I said, it takes a little bit longer, it takes more yarn, but when you see the end results, it's just so pretty. So there I have it twisted. You can see it looks pretty good. It's really twisted. Take your little fingers, try to put it in the middle and pull back. So you're putting it in half. Take your other finger, push that on your hook, come down, insert into that front loop, push both those loops together, and then hold it with the fingers down here, and then you're going to yarn over and pull through. So you have to get used to doing this stitch, and you'll get your own method of what's easier for you, because I may hold my yarn differently than you. So you just have to figure out the best way to hold your hook and to get that slip stitch once your loop is twisted. So now we're going to do that 2 more times into this corner chain 2 space. Insert back into that corner chain 2, work a single crochet, pull up a loop to the desired length, and then twist. Twist until it's tightly twisted. And again, you're just taking your hook in a circular motion and you're twisting that chain. And you can pull it out. That's not tight enough. You really want that chain tight. So I'm going to keep going. Still not tight enough. So you just want to keep twisting. And usually you can tell it's tight enough when it starts twisting on its own. So then I see, okay, that looks pretty twisted. So then again, I take my little finger, I put it almost in the halfway point, close as I can. Take my hook. I use this finger and push up to put some tension there. I insert back into the front loop of that last single crochet made. Push that loop up. Pinch it, hold it tight, and then slip stitch through those 2 loops. And then I take my fingers and then I just pull it so it's just nice and straight of a fringe then. So let's do that 1 more time into that corner chain 2 space. Again, we're doing it 3 times in that corner point. Insert back into that corner point, work a single crochet. Pull your loop up to the designated length that you want for your fringe, and then you're going to twist. Again, use that circular motion, and you can see how it's slowly starting to twist your chain, and you just keep doing that. I would say anywhere, depending on the size you're making, 20 to maybe 30 times for the big one, or maybe a few more. You're just going to twist, and you can see how it's starting to twist. So it's starting to curl up, but I know it's not tight enough. I really want that chain to be tightly twisted. So just keep twirling your hand, and I think that looks pretty good. You can see how the twist is in that fringe. Again, I use my little finger. I go to about halfway, and then I come down, insert into the front loop of that last single crochet made, push up with your finger, hold that tight, and then yarn over and pull through both loops. You can see how your fringe wants to like ball up like that. Just take your fingers and just pull it. And I do that now because it's easier, and then they lay straight than to have them all curled, and then you got to go back and do it later. So I just do it as I go. And that's what your twisted fringe looks like. So we have our corner point finished. Again, in that corner point of that chain 2, you're going to work a single crochet and a twisted fringe 3 times. So now all we have to do is work in each stitch around to the next corner point. So from now on, you're just going to insert into the next single crochet, work a single crochet, and then you're going to work your twisted fringe. Pull up to the desired length you want that fringe. Now, this looks like I'm not going to the end, but I am. It's just the angle of the camera. So I'm going to 9 inches for the size 10, and then I'm going to twist. Again, I recommend going to the 6-inch mark for the size 6, 7-inch mark for the size 8, and the 9-inch mark for the size 10 poncho. And then I'm just going to keep twisting, twisting, twisting. I'm going to take my little finger, go about halfway, and pull that back, kind of putting it in half. Take my other finger and stick it under my hook and just push up on it. I'm going back to the front loop of the last single crochet made, insert into that front loop only, push that second loop up to your hook and hold those 2 loops together, and then slip stitch. And then again, I just take my fingers and I just go like that so it lays nice and straight. And that's how you do the twisted fringe. I'll show you one more time. Again, you're going to insert into the next stitch, work a single crochet. Pull up a loop to the desired size of length that you want that loop, and then begin twisting until your fringe is really tightly twisted. Once it's tightly twisted, you can see it here. I'm just going to take my little finger, go right into the center, pull back, and then push that loop up. We're going back to the last single crochet made. You're going to insert into the front loop only. I take my hook down from the top to the bottom, and then push that down with your finger and hold it tight, pinch it together, and then yarn over and pull through all loops on your hook. When you let go, it's going to curl up, and then you just go like this a couple times, and you can see how that lays flat, and that's how you do the twisted fringe. So now what you want to do is you're just going to repeat what I showed you, and you're going to work 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and then work a twisted fringe. Single crochet into the next stitch, work a twisted fringe. And you're going to repeat that around your poncho till you get to the opposite side where your corner chain 2 space is. I'll meet you there. So I just got over to my next point. You can see that I worked my fringe around the 1/2 of the poncho. So let me just turn it so you can see what I've done. So the first half is done, and then I'm back over to that corner point. Now this isn't laying too good. It's folded and wrinkled underneath. So now let me open this up and go back to the corner. So you can see this is what your work looks like. So you have a single crochet and a twisted fringe in each stitch around to that corner point. So I'm over at my corner point, and you're over at this chain 2 space. We're going to work a single crochet and a twisted fringe 3 times into that corner point, and then you're going to continue working 1 single crochet and a twisted fringe in each stitch around to the beginning where you started. So if you need help, just click back on the video where we started in the corner chain 2 space, and again you're going to work a single crochet and a twisted fringe 3 times in that corner chain 2 space, and then you're going to work 1 single crochet and a twisted fringe in each remaining stitch around. So go ahead and click back on the video, complete your fringe around the other side of your poncho, and I'll meet you when I get my fringe done. I just worked my last twisted fringe around my poncho. This is what it should look like, and I'll show you the finished poncho once I get it all finished. So I'm back over to my point of my poncho. I worked all the way around. I just did my last single crochet and twisted fringe in the last single crochet around, and now I'm going up here to where I made my first single crochet. So we worked in this stitch, so there's a little bit of a gap here, but you can see this is our first single crochet here where we worked that fringe. So what I'm going to do is join, but I'm going clear over on the other side of the single crochet. So here is that beginning single crochet. I'm going right across the top of that single crochet and between the first and second single crochet, and you're going to slip stitch. Yarn over, pull through between those stitches, and pull through the loop on your hook. I already fastened off, so now I'm going to just chain 2, 1, 2, pull out my hook, pull up, pull that yarn out, grab the yarn, pinch, pull down, and it creates a secure knot. So I'm going to go ahead and weave in all my ends, and I'll be back and show you the finished poncho. Our poncho is finished. Again, it's being modeled by my granddaughter Carly. The PDF pattern is available on our website, creativegrandma.net, as well as we have the link in the description box underneath the video. I hope you enjoyed today's crochet tutorial, and until next time, stay inspired and happy crocheting. Say goodbye, Carly.